All right, welcome to week 2. We're going to talk a little bit more about macronutrients, and we're going to talk a little bit more about tracking and ways to make this as easy as possible. That is our goal through here, is to constantly be making this not effortless, but easy so that you can accomplish it week after week. So the first things first, let's talk a little bit about what good nutrition is, because this is really important when we talk about themes around flexible dieting, when we talk about moderation, which we will talk about more in next week's training as well, is what actually is good nutrition. So we hear through flexible dieting that there's no good foods, there's no bad foods, there's no cheat meals, there's no cheat days. So what is good? What is good? And I hate to use the word good here, but it's important that we use it in this context so that we can understand our purpose in tracking our macros, developing this awareness, and having a greater understanding of our nutrition and our food choices. So good nutrition is based upon a science, not a belief system. This is huge. There are so many belief systems. There's so much noise in the health and the wellness space. It's important to recognize when we're making choices, when we're making decisions, when it comes to our nutrition, when it comes to our food, that we want to make it based off of science. What's the evidence behind it? Is this something that Susie decided at the office, or is this something that has been tested, proven, and tried, and we know that is A, going to yield us the results that we want, and B, going to be helpful overall? Good nutrition is based upon the best available evidence at the time. And the reason I say at the time is because science and information is constantly evolving, right? So there's definitely some, quote, evidence that was available years ago that we now know is probably not the best information or the best strategy for what we're trying to achieve. So we want to stay consistently up to date on what does the science say. We want good nutrition to have the ability to explain why it works. So we can find a lot of holes in different belief systems based on the why behind it. So why does this in fact work? And I'm going to give you a little bit of science and a little bit of evidence behind macronutrition today in today's training. I don't want you to get too caught up on all of that, but it's important for you to understand the why behind it. Good nutrition is easily integrated into your personal preferences. This is where we get into a lot of diets actually failing. So 95% of diets fail. 66% of individuals that lose weight on a diet will have weight rebound, which is where they gained all the weight back and then some. So a lot of this comes down to not being able to be integrated into your personal preferences. For example, if you have a culture or you just have family lifestyle, it's a regional thing, whatever it is that is just a part of your life, if you start to involve yourself in a diet that's going to make you remove certain foods like that from your lifestyle, then it's just not going to be sustainable long term, right? I tell people all the time, we can do hard things, we can sprint for short distances, but when it comes to our nutrition, yes, we can do hard things, but we need to be able to do it in a way that's practice repetition so that it gets easier, so that we can maintain it long term, so that therefore we can maintain our results. And that means integrating our nutritional choices and habits in a way that integrates our personal preferences. It also needs to be integrated into our lifestyle as well. And here's where we go into number 3, is tested against reality. Again, you can do hard things for a short amount of time. You can do restriction, you can do deprivation, you can do crazy meal plans. The long term, that's not reality. Life is going to happen. You're going to have holidays, you're going to have vacations, you're going to have different circumstances where your nutrition needs to be flexible and it needs to adapt to what you're doing in that current season of your life. I like to look at life in seasons, and seasons can change through the month, they can change through the year, whatever have you. Your nutrition needs to be able to be flexible and move with you. Ultimately, that's what we're working to do with balancing our hormones and creating a flexible metabolism as well. We don't want an adapted metabolism. Adapted metabolism usually adapts to things that we don't want it to adapt to, such as low calorie intakes, such as low carb intakes, or excessive exercise, so on and so forth. We want a flexible metabolism that's going to move with the seasons of our lives. So some seasons that we have more time to exercise, our metabolism is going to move with that. Sometimes we travel, we might take in a little bit more food, our macros may be off a little bit. We want our metabolism to be flexible to that rather than adapting to just this restricted deprivation kind of mindset, kind of lifestyle situation. We don't want that. So these are the foundational pillars of what good nutrition is. And that is what we're going to base every decision, every goal, every adjustment throughout this program. So let's talk a little bit about our macronutrients here. So there are 3 macronutrients. There's actually 4. I'm going to talk about the 4th one in a minute. But there are 3 that we're going to be focused on, and that is protein, carbohydrates, and fats. Macronutrients in themselves are just the things that our body needs in large quantities. Each one of these nutrients does something different for the body, which is why it's important that we A, have a greater understanding, and B, can adjust and balance our plates, our meals, and our day based on what we need for our body. So protein, just in its makeup, 1 gram equals 4 calories. So you can see how these macronutrients make up your daily caloric intake. Yes, in order to lose weight, you need to be in a caloric deficit. Yes, in order to gain weight, you need to be in a caloric surplus. In order to maintain, we need to have energy balance. However, it matters how we get those calories in. So that's where these macronutrients come into play. 1 gram of protein equals 4 calories. Protein is the most important macronutrient for satiation, satisfaction, and building. So thinking like building muscles, building babies if you're pregnant or expecting, recovering from things like surgery, pregnancy, injuries, so on and so forth. This is calories are king, as they say, macronutrients are queen, and protein is the main queen. So we really want to put an emphasis on protein. So starting to look at your meals, especially if we're dealing with cravings, especially if we're dealing with hunger, start to notice what on your plate is already made out of protein and where we can start to increase it. That's going to be the first major step to being successful here. How can you just gradually start to increase your servings of protein versus worrying about adding in additional meals, adding in additional protein heavy snacks, which can be a strategy. But right now, I'm guessing that you're already a little bit overwhelmed, a little bit busy, and just gradually increasing what you're already doing is going to be the most successful strategy for your success. The second macronutrient is carbohydrates. Carbohydrates, 1 gram is equal to 4 calories as well. This is your body's preferred fuel source. It is also, all 3 of these are important. Carbohydrates are very, very important for our hormone health. They're very, very important for having the energy to get throughout the day, having the energy throughout your exercises, and so on and so forth. You can look at carbohydrates kind of like jet fuel. So often when we suffer from cravings, often when we suffer from energy slumps, we're constantly looking for carbohydrates. That's because it's quick, easy, clean fuel. So paying attention to that, it can also be a signal that you didn't get enough protein earlier on in your day. It could be a signal that we're not eating enough food overall. So paying attention to cravings. Cravings can tell us a lot. We're taught to ignore cravings, to fight cravings, to try to smash them down, but really our cravings can tell us a lot about our hormonal health, what we're taking in overall, and the balance throughout our meals. So don't ignore that. Carbohydrates are very important. We're going to do a later lesson in this program. It's all about mindset over carbohydrates because I know it's a struggle for so many women. Third macronutrient is fats. So we're looking at healthy fats here. 1 gram of fat equals 9 calories. So as you can see, this is the most calorically dense macronutrient, but it is crucial for hormonal health. We want our fats to stay between 25 to 35% overall. I really don't like for women to go beneath 30% of their overall intake because it is so crucial for your hormonal health, and we want to keep that up. But this is what we're going to make up our overall intake throughout our day-to-day. As you look at it in a fuel source, protein is like a flex fuel. It's our building macronutrient. Carbohydrates are flex fuel, clean and quick. And then our fats, they're a little bit sluggish, they're slow, they're a little bit dirtier, but they are crucial for our hormonal health. So we definitely need these in the appropriate amounts at all meals. All right, I told you I was going to talk about the 4th. So alcohol is technically the 4th macronutrient. Technically, it has 7 calories per gram. It's important to have awareness and knowledge of our alcohol consumption for our health. We'll do a little bit more work on this. There's actually an episode of the Strong Mamas and Macros podcast that I've linked for you in the portal that I would love for you to take a listen to. I talk a little bit about, being aware of where we are, who we're with, the situation as it comes to our alcohol consumption. I will never tell you not to consume alcohol. I enjoy alcohol in moderation on an occasion. equation. So I'm not here to judge your choices, but I'm here to help you become more aware and more mindful of them. So I'd love for you to take a listen to that episode. We'll do a little bit more work as we move down through the program curriculum, talking about situational eating, food pushers, intermittent sampling, and things like that. All these like higher level things, but we will talk about this again. It's also important for your overall goals, your overall success, that you're aware of how to track alcohol. So in your portal, you'll notice there is a chart that talks about calories in there, and it talks about how to divide it out for your overall macronutrient breakdown. So you're going to take your total caloric intake of your alcohol beverage. You're going to divide by 4 to get the total number of carbohydrate grams that you're going to subtract from your daily total, or by 9 for fats. So you can trade it out for carbohydrates or fats. But what you will notice, as I've just mentioned, each one of these macronutrients, the 3 that we need in large quantities throughout our body, are so incredibly important. So we don't want to be constantly swapping out our food choices for liquid calories or liquid macros. There is also a section in your guide, Moderation Through Macros, that talks a little bit more about alcohol as well. So just give that a read, give the podcast episode a listen, just so that you create some more awareness and more mindfulness around your consumption. So when it comes to tracking our macros, when it comes to our nutrition, what exactly matters the most, and how should we strategize our success as we go through the next several weeks together? This is a pyramid, and it starts at the bottom with the larger pieces and it moves its way up. And we're going to talk about the most important pillars for your metabolism, your hormonal health, as well as your success. So as I've kind of mentioned, when it comes to tracking, as I've kind of mentioned in the alcohol situation, mindfulness and appetite awareness are going to be the major pillar of your overall success. Why? Because this is just, again, using tracking as a tool of awareness, right? So we're not using tracking as a way to restrict. We're not using tracking as a way to deprive. We're using tracking so that we can be more aware of what our food is made up of, when we're taking in food, why we might be taking in the food. Again, not as a tool for criticism or judgment, but literally just to have more information. So having mindfulness around our food choices. Does this serve my goal? Does this serve my health? Does this serve my hormones? Does this serve, what I'm trying to achieve, how I want to feel, even how I want to look? Or is this instant gratification? Again, this is another topic that we will repeatedly go over, but, starting to look at delayed gratification as a strategy for long-term gratification, long-term success, and long-term results. So mindfulness and appetite awareness is a huge thing there. Mindfulness can also encompass stress-relieving activities such as leisure walking, hobbies, any kind of activity where you feel relaxed after. The stress response is a huge dial mover in our overall metabolic health, in how our metabolism responds, and how you're ultimately going to either gain muscle, lose fat, or just in general balance your hormone health and feel amazing. So that is a big factor there. Your metabolism is not a calculator of calories in, calories out. Your metabolism is a barometer of all these different inputs, all these different stressors, which yes, dieting can be a stressor. Yes, exercise can be a stressor. And so we want part of our mission here to be able to balance that stress, so in turn, we feel more balanced ourselves. That leads into the second one. This is movement. So this is not exercise. Movement is talking about how active we're staying throughout the day. Are you spending more time seated or standing? Are you spending more time fidgeting, moving around than you are just, completely standing still or sitting on the couch? Looking at walks, looking at gardening, chores, anything that we can just find and incorporate more times that we're moving throughout the day. When we're cooking, can we fidget and move from side to side? This is where step counts and things like that come into handy. It's a good it's a good gauge for how much time we're actually moving. Sometimes I've had individuals feel like they were moving a whole bunch only to see that their step count was around 3,000, and we want to get that up. So starting to pay attention to how much time you spend sedentary and how much time you actually spend moving. It goes without saying, a body in motion stays in motion. So it may feel taxing. It may even feel exhausting at first because your body's not accustomed to it. But the more we move, the more we're going to process our nutrients, the more we're going to process our other activity, such as exercise, the better our body is going to feel, the more it's going to crave it, and the more balanced and at peace we will feel. The second thing that matters most is energy balance. This is where our SHMEC Sleep, mood, hunger, energy, and cravings comes into play. We're definitely going to be talking more about that in the coming weeks, but this is a good indication of energy balance. Energy balance is energy out, energy in. Of course, there's going to be a slight energy deficit or surplus based on if you're trying to gain muscle or lose weight, but ultimately finding that Goldilocks gap where if we are in a caloric deficit, we still want to find a certain amount of energy balance so that we're not constantly feeling moody, hungry, having energy slumps, constant cravings, and it's affecting our sleep. So that's a huge thing. That's why I'm going to be constantly asking you throughout the weeks to check in with your biofeedback. How's everything doing? I can look at the calculator of energy in, energy out in order to create your numbers, in order to adjust your plan all day long. But if we're not checking in with how your body's responding, we're not going to be successful. This is one of the biggest pieces of this entire program, and why your success, if you're sticking with it, if you're committing to it, is pretty much guaranteed, because I am constantly going to be diving into your unique energy balance struggles, your hormonal struggles, and working with you to create this balance so that you can actually get the results that you want in a way that feels good to you. So that's super important. Wait a minute, this program is all about macros, so why is this all the way up here? It's all the way up here because even if we're tracking our macros absolutely perfectly, if we're not, worrying about our movement, if we're not doing stress relieving activities, if we're not mindful, if we don't have appetite awareness, we don't have energy balance, then your macros don't matter. Macros are so important. Again, being the things that your body needs in larger amounts. I went over briefly how protein builds, carbs are fuel, and then fats are for hormones. So you can see how they're equally important as we go through the thing, but these other foundational pieces are so important as well. So yes, it is important to have balance because we can have imbalances in our meals, imbalances in our day that can lead to energy imbalances, that can lead to lack of energy in order to do movement, that can lead to cravings that kind of take away mindfulness and appetite awareness. All of these things work together, but building these foundational pieces is going to be key to your short-term and long-term success and your results. So macronutrients are important in that way. You may notice that exercise is at the very top. Yes, exercise is important. But exercise is not as important as you would think for fat loss, weight loss, so on and so forth. Now, if you're trying to build muscle, then it's going to be pretty much, all of these are going to be big dial movers there, but exercise is going to be important. But when just trying to balance your hormones, when just trying to feel better, when just trying to look a little bit better, exercise is the very top of the pyramid. Yes, we're going to be focusing on appropriate amounts of exercise, but what I'm also going to teach you in the coming weeks is how we're going to balance our exercise and our food so we get that perfect amount of energy balance so that our schmeck stays in alignment with our overall health and our goals. Exercise is one, so when it comes to how we're going to make adjustments throughout the coming weeks, the last two things that we're going to make adjustments to are your exercise and your overall food intake. What I want you to look at first are the things that are easier to do first. And you may be thinking, well, it's easier for me to remove some food. It's easier for me to increase my exercise, but not when it comes to an overall stress perspective of your body. Things that are going to be a little bit easier are working on skills of developing mindfulness and appetite awareness, seeing if we can increase the daily activity, so increasing steps, increasing walks, staying on our feet a little bit more, working towards that energy balance. Those are going to be the bigger things that we can manipulate through the coming weeks. The next thing that we would manipulate is our macronutrients, and the final thing that we would manipulate is our exercise. Why? There's only so much time that we can spend exercising. There's only so far that we can take your calorie intake down before we run into metabolic adaptation or negative influence on your hormonal health, which is not the goal of this program and shouldn't be your goal for your longevity and overall health and wellness. So being really mindful of that. What you do to get your results to a certain degree is what you're going to have to do to maintain the results. So if we're working out 3 times a day, 6 days a week, if you get to your weight loss goal doing that, you're going to have to maintain that, plus probably add a little bit more to maintain the results. Versus if we can get your results with your calories as high as we possibly can, the perfect amount of exercise, and focus on creating energy balance, adding in more movement, minimizing stress, and maximizing mindfulness and appetite awareness, you're going to be able to do that forever without any extra energy, without having to create extra hours and time in your day. So that is going to be huge. Not to mention the fact, again, we're trying to create a flexible metabolism here so that if we go on vacation and we can't exercise, or we go on vacation and our macros get a little bit off, after some time, after we've created this flexible metabolism, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. We're going to be able to go on vacation. We're going to be able to go on holidays without having to worry about all our results being destroyed. And we can just come back on the next day and not start over, but just get right back on plan. Get right back to those balanced macronutrients. Get right back to our exercise regimen without feeling like we have to, quote, rein it in or exercise a little bit more to make up. And so that's going to be really, really powerful. That's going to be really, really transformational in your overall journey and your overall long-term success. All right, daily nutritional commitments. This is going to be a new strategy that I would like for you to implement in this coming week, and it's going to be huge for hitting your macros. It's going to be huge for taking away some overwhelm and overall getting you some quick wins in the coming week. So daily nutritional commitments, or DNCs, are nutritional checks and balances. So you can, again, I kind of like to think of macros as, a budget, right? So we have this much, and we'll talk about, like we can spend our macros on alcohol, for example, but should we, or different things like that. So we want to make sure that we pay our bills, protein, carbs, and fats, and then we have a little bit spending, our spending calories, where we still want to hit the protein, the carbs, and the fats, but we can have a little fun doing that. But there's, could, and then there's should. But nutritional checks and balances are things that can be done 90% of the time. So regardless if you're traveling, regardless, if a kid is sick, if you're sick, whatever's going on, and they keep you mostly on track. These are going to keep you mostly on track. Again, we are always, always, always striving for consistency, not perfection. Consistency is what is going to win the day every single time. So keeping us mostly on track. As for the rest, we're going to do our best. They're going to follow the 3 E's. This is my favorite. Your 3 E's. It needs to be effective. So it needs to be effective towards your goal. Your daily nutritional commitments don't need to be way out here in left field that have nothing to do with what we're trying to accomplish. They need to be effortless. So effortless means these are something that we probably are already doing. So when we originally start off this program, I talked to you guys a lot about starting with protein and just starting by increasing your protein portions. This is an example of that. That's effortless. You're already eating the protein. You're already putting it on your plate. You're already doing all the things. Just increase it a little bit. Just increase it a little bit. And that will get you to your goal a whole lot quicker than feeling like you need to add in an additional meal, that you need to add in these additional snacks. You're already going to build upon what you're doing. So that is an example of it being effortless. Most of the time, you're already doing it. Another example is, we just talked about the hierarchy or the pyramid of our success, of our nutritional success. Steps can be a part of that. So if you're already taking intentional walks, maybe effortless is just adding on 5 extra minutes. Maybe it's adding on an extra block. Whatever that is, you're already doing the walk. You've already created the habit. Let's build upon what's already there. That's effortless. Needs to be enjoyable. Something that you look forward to. This nutrition shouldn't be miserable. Exercise shouldn't be miserable. None of this should be miserable. There should be some joy. If you enjoy it, you're much more likely to do it. If you look forward to it, it's going to excite you. That's going to motivate you, and that's going to get you results. Results yields to more motivation, which yields to more results, so on and so forth. So you see how that works together. So pick things that you look forward to. So, for example, I usually have a protein shake after my workout. I love my protein shake. It's like a milkshake to me. I take my protein powder. I usually do some frozen berries, some almond milk, a little bit of ice. It's really, really thick. It's really, really delicious. And that's something that I look forward to every single day. Helps me get my protein up. And, there's just so many benefits to it. So that's an example. So pick things that you enjoy. If you enjoy a walk, whatever, just find some sort of something that you enjoy. Some people will enjoy, drinking their water out of specific bottles. There's all kinds of ways that you can do this. You don't just have to automatically say, bam, that's it. I want you to think about this. I want you to make these things that really, really fit with your lifestyle, your preferences, and that are going to help you reach your goal. These are your baseline for success. We will talk more and more and more as we get into higher levels of this program about moving away from tracking, what we do when we travel, all kinds of different things. But DNCs are something that you take with you absolutely everywhere. I tell people, when things are crazy at work, when things are crazy with your family, when things are crazy with travel, all these things, your DNCs are here. Like, I will catch you. I will catch you. We can let everything else go. Just focus on your DNCs. I've had women choose, tracking as your DNC. They're like, at the bare minimum, even if it's not the greatest day, I can still track. I've had, things like I'm going to have one salad every single day. That's been mine from time to time. And this is a way to make sure that we're actually getting vegetables. And it's something that if I ask you, if you're traveling and all you have is fast food, can you get a salad? The answer is probably yes. So considering things like that, if all else fails, I can at least do these things that are going to keep me mostly on track. And as for the rest, I'm going to do my best. So I want you to focus over the next 7 days, considering what your DNCs are going to be. And that brings us to our weekly plan for this week. So what you need to do to stay on track in the coming weeks are catch up on any missing coaching lessons. If you haven't listened or watched the last week, make sure that you do that. If there's anything that you feel like, oh, I just didn't really get that, watch it again, listen to it again. Bonus, listen to it while you're going on a walk. Continue to work towards your individual goal. Go through your check-in feedback, work on your individual goal, create a plan. Write it in your calendar, write it out in your journal, create sticky notes, set reminders in your phone, put it on your digital calendar, whatever you need to do to continue working towards your individual goal. And I just said, discover what your daily nutritional commitments are. Spend the next 7 days, maybe even doing, when we started this program, we did a nutritional audit together. Maybe go through and do your own daily audits. This is what I'm already doing. This is what I could, maybe improve on a little bit. Maybe that's a good sign that this is what your daily nutritional commitment is. Going back to the topic on good nutrition based on science, science is based off of, creating a hypothesis, trying it, and then figuring out what works. If you go through over the next 7 days and we figure out what some daily nutritional commitments are, we're going to work really hard to hit those. And if we discover that it's a really big struggle or you just don't enjoy it, there's something not quite right about it, that's okay. Let's change it up and let's try something else. We're not going to give up, but we're going to change it up and we're going to figure out what works, what's going to be effective, enjoyable, and effortless for you, and we're going to make that happen. Lastly, I just want to remind you again that consistency is greater than perfection every single time. When it comes to tracking your macros, when it comes to actions, behaviors, and processes to achieving your goals this week, I just want to remind you to show up and build the consistency muscle. Even if it doesn't look or feel like you thought it should, don't should yourself. Pat yourself on the back for showing up. Pat yourself on the back for building that consistency. Consistency over and over and over again will 100% of the time get you results. So stay with it, trust the process, stay the course, and I will see you guys again soon.